Hi students, this is lecture 3 and in this lecture we are going to learn about while loop, for loop and waveform charts and shift register. So let's begin. So while loops, I think we all have used while loops in C program and MATLAB. So while loops performs the execution of a code continuously unless a certain condition is met. So there are two different types of conditional terminals, like for the while loop in LabVIEW. So the first one is continue if true. So it looks like this. So and there is the other one, which is stop if true, and it looks like this. So basically, if this the output of this code is true, then the execution keeps on executing this code. Now, if the output of this code was to turn false, then the execution stops. Okay, and this is quite opposite. The stop if true is completely opposite of continue if true. So if the output turns out of this code is false, then this execution keeps happening. And suppose if it turns true, the output of this code is true, then the execution stops. And yeah, the waveform charts, we can plot multiple date. We can. So waveform charts is a special kind of numeric indicator on which we can plot like two or more plots. And there are different kinds of charts: strip chart, scope chart, sweep out chart. But we usually use strip chart, and strip chart shows the running data continuously, and the scope chart shows one item of the data, and whereas the sweep is similar to our oscilloscope, so it shows the previous data and also the new data. So but we would be mostly concentrating on the strip chart. So in this one, you have like a VI, we are just going to use a sub. They are using a sub VI, which is giving a scalar output, and it is connected to the strip chart. So, and then you can do a multiple plot chart. This was a single plot chart. If you want to do a multiple plot chart, so they're collecting data from 3 sub VIs, and then if you want to do a multiple plot chart, you have to use this function called bundle. So I think it's located in the functions. When you go to the functions palette, right click, use the functions palette. So in the cluster palette, you will find bundle. So bundle will create like an array. It's a collection of different arrays, or any kind of numeric data. It's just it holds it in a cluster. So about clusters, you will learn in the lab number 5, but you just need to know what it is right now. And the output, you see, this is a cluster data type. It's red. It's a red wire. This is a numeric data type wire, and this is a cluster data type wire. So so then there's exercise 4.1 that you have to perform, and it's very simple and it has all the steps here. And Yeah, and there is another thing like adding timing. So when you are using a while loop, so the while loop tries to execute the code as quickly as possible. But for your application, you might want to take data at certain intervals. Like for example, once in 2 seconds or once in 500 milliseconds. So in that case, you can use the wait function, which you can access by going through to the functions palette and choosing the time and dialog palette. So don't worry about this. I'm going to show a demo of it, but just giving you an overview of what is included in this chapter. Yeah, this exercise also you need to do. Yeah, this is a very important thing. So this is called the blue square that you see here. Let me zoom in. The blue square that you see here is called as a tunnel. And a tunnel, it helps through tunnel, the data key flows uh, uh, in and out of the while loop. So once the execution of this data is complete, sorry, the execution of this program is complete, the value is then passed on outside of the tunnel. So there you can even use tunnel on the left hand side over here. So that is an input tunnel. So the code wouldn't run unless the data is passed through the tunnel, like it until the tunnel receives the value from the object. Yeah, the next is the shift registers. So the shift registers is used with while loops or for loops, and shift registers are used when you're intending to transfer values from one iteration to the next. So the way you add the shift register is by right clicking on the loop structure, and then you have an option of adding a shift register. So this is something I'm going to demonstrate in the uh, program that I'm going to write. Um, So for example, let's see how the data flows in the shift register. So when we add shift registers, there's one added on the left side and the other is added on the right side of the loop. Okay, so before the loop begins, there's some initial value. Either you can assign it, or by default it takes the value as 0. So that value flows in to that code. The code is executed, and then the output value, the new value that is uh, that you get is then stored in this register. Yeah, after the first iteration, the new value is sent to this shift register, which is on our right side. And then what happens is it flows and gets in here, and it's stored here. And then this is empty. Then there is then in the subsequent iteration, then the value that's stored here is used, and a new value is calculated, and it's stored here, and then it is passed on here. So this is like you are trying to save the value of after every iteration, and then you're using that value to do in the code to perform some function or calculation, and then you're generating a new value. And you can add more shift registers here by right clicking on the left shift register and then choosing the add element. um, so this is typically used, the shift registers, in calculating the moving average. n number of data points. Yeah, see, you can add like so this one would store the data for example for 3 loops ago, so and the data for 2 loops ago, and then this is for like 1 loop ago, and this would store the latest value. So whatever latest value you get, it's being passed on here, and it's stored here. So yeah, initializing shift register. So you can either uh, initialize it, or you can, uh, if you don't initialize it, by default, it's 0. Okay, there is an example for the shift register that you can go through. Then we have the customizing charts section. You can add features like zoom and pan if you want to move around and see the data. And you have this option of changing the scale by right clicking on the graph, and you have this, you have to uncheck the auto scale X and Y values, and then you can change the scale, you can change the labels, you can change the title and the legend labels also. And and then we have for loop. So the for loop repeats a part of the block diagram code for a predetermined number of times. So the way you select for loop is, again, you do a right click on the functions palette and go to the structure palettes. From there you choose either while loop or a for loop. So this is how a for loop looks. And then you have to insert the number of iterations that you want it to perform. And just remember that I is nothing but it starts from 0, not from 1. Yes, and you have to do all these exercises. So I'm going to demonstrate a code which involves loops, for loop shift registers, and we are going to calculate the moving average of 4 random numbers and plot them. So let's get started. So first I want to put a for loop, and then I have to assign the loop count, create constant. I want to do about 200, about 200 iterations. Then I will use a random number generator. So this, it generates numbers between 0 to 1. It's yeah, from number 0 to 1. And then now I'd like to add a shift register. Okay, you do right click and then say add shift register. Let me just maximize my screen. Yeah. So if you want to add multiple, then you can right click on it and say add element. So I am going to take about 3 of them. See, and then I wish to calculate a moving average. So I have to go to numeric, compound arithmetic, okay, and you can just enlarge this depending upon how many inputs you have. So I can have, I'm just gonna connect this to this. Oops. You have connected two terminals of different types. Okay, so now we are getting an error that you have connected two terminals of different types. Let's click on this. Okay, so shift register unwired from inside the loop. Okay, I know what it is. So first we need to connect this. So yeah, now you see that the error has gone. So it has to be connected to some kind of function or input so that it can have a data type. So now it's automatically converted to numeric data type. So now I can perform arithmetic of, so this random number generator will generate a random number, and initially these are initialized to 0 by default. So we will calculate an average of these three values plus this value, and in subsequent iterations these will get updated, and we are going to calculate a moving average of four numbers, last four numbers. So connecting this. Yeah, and I'm sending this value to the shift register here, so that we are storing the current value here, and then in the next iteration this is automatically passed on in these the shift registers which are on the left hand side. And now I'm going to add and then divide it by 4. And I want to be plot this value. I want to plot what is the random number itself and also the average value. So I want to have like two plots in my chart. So for that, whenever you're doing a multiple, you're plotting multiple plots, so you need to use the bundle function. And the way you use is you do right click and then go to cluster, and you just choose like the bundle. Yeah, here. So you give the y1 here, the plot number 1. So I'm plotting the average, so it goes here. And the second thing, I want to plot the current random value also. And then the output of this is a cluster. So I'm going to put a graph here. Okay, so go to graph and choose a waveform chart. Okay, you get a waveform chart here. Just going to resize it. And then connect this. You can resize the for loop as well. Connect this here. So we are good. And I want to like output the number of iterations. So I just connect this here. Oh, sorry, first I need to use the control. So it will be a numeric indicator here showing number of iterations. Okay. So I'm going to place my number of iteration thing here. So the I value changes in each iteration, right? So I want to be able to know what's the last iteration. So obviously it will be like 199. That's what I expect to see here. Okay, now here's the thing. The tunnel which I was talking about. So you need to, so there are different kind of tunnels. You have auto index tunnel, concatenating tunnel. See the tunnel, you have to do a right click on this, go to the tunnel mode. So you have like last value, indexing, concatenating. So indexing and concatenating is, you use it for arrays, about which you will be learning in the next lecture. So we are not dealing with arrays, we're just dealing with the scalar value. So just choose the last value. Here you go. And then we go to the front panel. Yeah. So now let's run this. Okay. You see the random values here.